Hello, and a very warm welcome to this 1.1 session. My name is Els. For those of you who join us for the first time, let me give you a little bit of a background. We started this project way back in May 2020, and that was in the middle of the pandemic, the COVID and lockdown, and it was a very stressful time for many people. Several of us working for 1.0, meditating on a regular basis. And then someone came with the idea that why not to share some of these ideas and meditation practice with a wider audience. And that's the reason, or that's how we started the project. What we have been doing since then is every fortnight on Fridays, 9 a.m. UK time, we invite an experienced meditator and we ask him or her to share their thoughts about a particular topic, but also to guide us into a short meditation. So far, we have had more than 120 guest speakers from all over the world. All the sessions are recorded and they are available on YouTube. Today, I'm very pleased to welcome Manda Patel, who joins us from Oxford. Manda began her spiritual study in London in 1981. Her experience of both Eastern and Western cultures have helped her building bridges between people of all backgrounds. In 1993, Manda became the director of the Global Retreat Center, which is an international value-based residential retreat place in Oxford. Manda has also taken on the role of overseeing activities of several meditation centers across the UK. She continues to travel widely as an ambassador of the simple spiritual principles that lie behind the philosophy of Raja Yoga meditation. The topic she has chosen for today is From Bondage to Inner Freedom. So very warm welcome to you, Manda.
Thank you, Els. Om Shanti and greetings to everyone. Pleasure to be here this morning with you. And interesting, as I was listening to Els doing the introduction and preparing you all, she said something which I want to correct, and that is that I became the director of the Global Retreat Center in 1993, which is true. But I want to add that I am no longer that. And that was a choice that I made. I continue to play the role of being part of a team that directs the retreat center, if you like. And I felt important to say that in relation to our topic today, from bondage to relationship. And it was in 2021, although the thought had been for a very long time, in 2021, I made a conscious choice to step down from that role of being a sole director and encouraged the possibility of creating a team that would run the retreat center. And those of you who don't know the retreat center, I'd suggest that you Google Global Retreat Center and you will find a lovely website that gives you more information about it. But why I wanted to say that was because I had got to a point in my journey, my life, my spiritual journey, where something with which I had a relationship, or I wanted to have a relationship, it became a bondage. And it wasn't about the position, it wasn't about a role, it wasn't about the task itself, but it was about my own internal feelings about what was happening around me. Why it became a bondage, you might say, when in fact it's a spiritual task. And spiritual task doesn't just mean sitting somewhere, speaking of amazing things and meditating all day long, or teaching meditation all day long. But actually, a spiritual journey particularly means translating some of those experiences that you might have spiritually through your own practice, translating those into action and interactions. And I was finding that the amount of activity that was so huge that I was finding it was becoming a bondage for me. It was becoming a compulsion, if you like. It was becoming a task that I felt I needed to do in a certain way, which is not what life is all about. And I felt it necessary to create for myself a space in my mind and in my physical space to separate myself so that I can begin to see things outside of myself more as an observer, being able to be objective about what's happening around me so that I could change my own bondage into a relationship. I am very much someone who's a doer. I can make things happen. I can do a lot. I have a lot of energy. But that doesn't mean that I have to be expending that energy, that I have to be doing just because I'm capable. Because what makes it a bondage is when I begin to think or feel that others can also do just as much, or when I feel that something has to be done in a certain way, to a certain standard or a certain quality. All of this then begins to become a bondage, to the point that it changes into stress, it changes into anxiety, if you like. Not that I necessarily had anxiety as such. So this is an interesting example, I feel, of change, of going from bondage to a relationship. Relationship, the word in itself suggests that you relate to something. And my own sense is that in today's world, really everything has become a bondage. In the sense that situations, circumstances, people, facilities, all of these things compel us to be with them in a certain way. And this compulsion is the compulsion that is a reflection of bondage, where I feel it must be in that way. Whether it's even our human relationships that we say are relationships are those aspects of ourselves in which there is a give and take taking place, where I'm able to give and I'm able to receive. It's not just about receiving, or it's not just about being able to give all the time. We do also find ourselves at times where we feel we have to be doing something. And I suppose in a sense that was my situation. I have to be doing this. I wanted to do it, but have to, must, and should, all of these aspects. The moment I start to feel I should do it and I must do it, then it's become a bondage. How do I change when I actually know I want to do all the good things that I've been doing. My life has been about spiritual service all of the time for the last 42 years, in a sense. It was my choice. So how do we recognize that something has become a bondage? I was also realizing for myself that when I am, it's like if you have a car and you try to use it without fuel in the car, what would happen? Eventually, well, not eventually, in a very short period of time, the engine would wear out. But if you've been pushing the car to drive, that's when the engine kind of explodes. And for us also, recognizing that anything that I have a relationship with or a connection with, let's use the word relationship differently, anything that I have a connection with, is it something that I'm aware that I'm bringing as something of myself to that connection, and I'm also receiving from that connection? And it's about becoming aware and conscious of this. My sense is that we've kind of so in an automatic mode of doing things and kind of connecting in such a way that we begin to, we don't even realize when we have stopped being aware of our own contribution to something, but that we are becoming dependent internally on what's around us. When we become dependent instead of having a relationship, then there is fear of losing it, fear of discomfort without it, fear of feeling that you're not safe without it. These are markers. And to use these markers to make a journey inside one's own self. To be able to realize, as a spiritual being, I am all that which I wish from outside of myself. And this is, of course, where the practice of meditation helps us hugely. That all that I seek, this is such a simple truth, yet a very powerful truth, that all that I seek from outside of myself, from relationships, from the quality of my interactions, from my physical comforts, in a sense even, all of that actually is to do with my own sense of freedom inside my own self. That I am intrinsically the essence of peace. Peace is who I am as a spiritual being. Let's just practice for a moment or two this awareness that while I have my own personality traits, my own desires and expectations, behind that, behind all of that, is my essence. And that is I, the essence of peace. Peace, not just in a state in which there's absence of sound or conflict, but a state in which there is harmony, alignment, stillness, and an incredible beauty of truth. Nothing and no one can infiltrate that peace unless I give them permission. Just allow your awareness and consciousness, the perception of your space around you, filled with this sense of peace. You find that your breath becomes deeper, slower. But this attention to your breath, sensing that oxygen reaches every particle of your body. Allow peace to be filled in that breath. And sense this peace fill and reach every particle of your body, to the extent and to the point that you are the ball, the orb, or a body of light, body of peace. A body filled with the energy of peace. As if you are just peace, deep, profound peace. Now, from this place, if you were to relate, or when you are to relate to the world around you, outside of you, how would you relate to it? When a boat is anchored, its anchor is thrown into the water. It can't move. It's completely still and stable. And in a sense, in order to be able to have a relationship with everything outside of yourself, this is the place that I have to find myself in at all times. More time doing this. Why everything becomes a bondage and a compulsion is our own need for outcome, result, success. Although our definition of all of these things is different for each one. and our attachment to the outcome and the result, our attachment to doing. All of us have this attachment to doing. Isn't that amazing? Yet, and yes, we do have to do. It's not that we don't have to do. We do have to do. While I'm alive, while I can eat, I need to be working. I need to be doing. But what is my relationship? Is it out of compulsion that I can't sit quietly, peacefully? Is that the why I'm doing? And I accept that this is why I have to do. I need to be doing. But in actual fact, our own state of being is the biggest contribution. So relationships are harmonious and loving, and those that are fruitful, pleasurable, and enjoyable are in which both are sharing their own inner fulfillment. Instead of relating, what happens nowadays is that our relationship with other people, they make us feel good about ourselves. So then we engage because they make us feel good about ourselves. And in a strange sort of a way, we end up wanting that and feeding that sense inside ourselves. And it's any relationship. It's not just intimate relationship, but mother, father, friend, any of those relationships. So actually, if I want to shift from being in bondage to relationship with everything, I need to nurture my own spirit, need to nurture my own self. And this nurture of the self teaches me to own my own self-worth and value. That however much I contribute to something, it's going to be significant. It's going to be valuable, and it's going to be important. I don't need to prove myself. I don't need to prove my existence to my own self. And I don't need to prove my existence to anyone else. But I can only do that when I really sat truly with myself. And of course, the other thing that what helps me sit with myself is also in my meditations and in my connection with the higher source. Everything in this world is changing all the time. There's only one thing that doesn't change, only one. And that is that one supreme, the divine source, unchanging, constant, benevolent, unconditional. And in connection only with that unchanging source, I can measure the change around. But when I stay in connection, in the presence, in the vibration and the energy of that source, I can sit with it, be with it, feel with it. I feel the same inside my own self. And then I truly begin to relate to everything outside of me. That's just, as a last thing, have a sense of that. The divine, pure, unconditional source is accessible and available to me anytime, any place. It's when I truly become quiet, still, and silent, prepared to listen to the soundless sound of silence. Feel the energy of love, all-encompassing, benevolent presence is that love. When I am with that, I'm also the same. It's available to me anytime, any place. Just a thought away. That incredible, gentle, pure light of peace. That's who I am. Om, I am. Shanti, peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Manda. I can really feel that stillness and inner peace when you were conducting the meditation. But before we close, I would like to ask you a question. You talked about that everything in today's world is in fact a bondage, and that it's so important to become an observer. But how will, if I connect with that divine source who is unchanging, eternal, benevolent, how will that connection help me to be an observer in my daily life?
I think that that connection with the divine actually allows me to see beyond what's on the surface. We tend to get caught up on what's happening on the surface. And when I become conscious of that benevolent energy, I feel that actually there is benefit in everything that's happening around me. Everything, there is some benevolence filled in that. If not today, tomorrow, if not tomorrow, the day after, one day, I will be able to see it if I look for it. But also, I naturally get strength my own self in that connection. And it's that strength that allows me to be centered inside my own self and not be able to, not tend to just grab what I might get from outside of me. And that's what weakens us when we feel that I need to get something from somewhere outside of me, when in actual fact, it's all inside me. But I'm cultivating that experience and that practice in my connection with the divine, with that source of benevolence and consistency. I am exactly the same.
So how would you then, let's say someone who wants to try meditation, and some people say it's very difficult to focus, it's very difficult to experience that inner peace. What kind of practical tips would you give them?
My suggestion would be start, first of all, one thing every day. If you're going to practice meditation, you have to do it every single day. And my suggestion would be twice a day, morning and evening. And fix a time, fix a place. Even if you start with 5 minutes, I think it's a start. My experience is that people want to meditate and they kind of resign to being unsuccessful at it. They do it occasionally, they do it for 2 or 3 days, and then they don't do it. So when they come back to it, it's an extra effort. So from my own, I've been doing it for 42 years, and I have to do it every day. Because if I don't, I'm aware that I lose it very, very quickly. It's like food, you know. I mean, we eat every day. How many times a day do we eat? 3, 4, 5, every little thing that you eat. Do you need to eat as many times a day? No, we don't, but we do. And we think that we need to because we need to survive physically. But how about thinking about surviving spiritually? And for that, you need to be able to feed yourself the practice of meditation, but actually even whatever experiences that you have, notice them, use them in interactions and in the world that you live in as well. And then you can begin to make meditation a way of life. It's not something that you do half an hour a day, or 10 minutes a day, and everything's going to be okay. It doesn't work like that. So whatever practice I have, the experience I have, let me repeat it in my quality of interactions as well. So every single day, without a miss, even on a Sunday. People say, what about Sundays? Sundays are holidays. There is no holiday. You are a spiritual being living in a physical world. There's no holiday from that. Even when you're sleeping at night, your mind is going. So really, it's something that has to happen every single day. And of course, from 5 minutes to increase it to 10 minutes to 15 minutes, as much as you can. And it's really sitting down is the discipline. Discipline is an absolute must. That's what I would suggest to begin with.
Okay, great, Manda. Thanks for clarifying that. I think these very practical tips are going to be very useful. So I would like to thank you for this beautiful session, and also technical team always available behind the scenes helping us. And I hope everyone that you have enjoyed the session. It's available on YouTube. And to announce the session for next Friday, it's going to be on the 7th of July, and we will have Marcelo Bulk from Bolivia as a guest speaker for the session. So thank you, everyone, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Well, thank you.
Bye, Manda.